And welcome back to another podcast with Mr. Hagan. And on this podcast, we are going to begin building the aggregate demand, aggregate supply model. And just to start this, we're really not going to differentiate between the classical and the Keynesians, as we talked a little bit about on a previous set of videos. Instead, we're just going to focus on building this model, and then we'll come back later and we'll talk about where the Keynesian and classical economists agree or disagree on things in the model. So keep in mind here are some really important things. One, we are modeling the entire economy. We're going to try to model the entire economy with this aggregate demand, aggregate supply model. And so there's going to be two variables that are going to show up on the axes. It's going to be the real gross domestic product. That's the real GDP is going to be on the horizontal axis of this model. And then the price index, or sometimes I'll call it the price level, whatever. It's the measurement of not one price on one good or service. It's the price of measurement of all prices for all goods and services in society. And so we might use something like the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, to do this. So those are going to be the two main variables. And then we're going to think about things from the point of view of the aggregate demand. Aggregate demand, the word aggregate means total, and demand means spending. So maybe some of you are already beginning to think about the aggregate, how this connects to the aggregate expenditure model, because remember the aggregate expenditure model was a total spending model. So here is total spending called aggregate demand, and really, like, it's the same stuff that was in that aggregate expenditure model, and we'll make that connection in a little bit. And then over here on the other side of the model, we have the aggregate supply side, and in this case, aggregate again means total, but supply we might think of as the word production. So we're going to be looking at how total spending and total production interplay with each other, and how that's going to affect the the price index and the gross domestic product. And then finally, I should add a variable that doesn't show up on either of the axes, but it's there going on in the background, is unemployment, because unemployment is going to move in the opposite direction of the gross domestic product, and I'll try to highlight that as we go through this model. All right, I'm going to stop there. That was just a very quick introduction. On a future video, we'll talk about, we'll start building these two curves. We'll build an aggregate demand curve. We'll build an aggregate supply curve. And this is the aggregate demand curve is the more, I don't know if I want to say straightforward one, but there's only one aggregate demand curve. When we build the aggregate supply curve, we're going to have to build two of them. There's going to be a long-run aggregate supply curve and a short-run aggregate supply curve, but we will talk about that on a future video. This has been Mr. Hagan. Thanks for joining me on another podcast, and we'll see you on the next podcast.